So once, yes, we are live on Facebook.
Okay.
Greetings and warm welcome to GlobalSBM Business Talk. Today, we are honored to welcome Dr. Elizabeth Soliday-Naui as our guest speaker. Dr. Elizabeth is originally from the Philippines, traveled extensively in the United States, earned her PhD in Information and Communication from the University of Nice in France, and is now based in Barcelona, Spain. She successfully started and sustained several educational institutional and initiatives in this city until she recently joined Swiss School of Management as the Provost. Thank you so much. Excited to hear from you.
Okay, thank you so much. It's an honor to be invited to talk this afternoon. I'll share with you what I know about cultural communication, intercultural communication, and most importantly, transcultural communication. I am a transcultural knowledge or competencies when it comes to doing business. The term transcultural is probably you've heard of it before, and you are more familiar with the concept of interculturalism, multiculturalism, cross-culturalism. So this transculturalism is actually within the same group. There are just some variations that we are going to I'm going to talk to you about this afternoon. And then, of course, later on, we'll try to put in all the concepts, and we'll discuss what's the relevance of transcultural communication and how would it benefit doing business. Not only doing business, but probably while you are studying it, you can also develop it into an academic problematic. I am I am in love with the transculturalism because this is actually my dissertation when I did my PhD in the south of France. Okay, so now I am going to share my screen with you, with all of you. Just give me a few seconds so I can open my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so let's do share screen. And let's do that. Okay, so we are here today to understand the value of transcultural competence in business. As Parsu already introduced me to all of you, my name is Elizabeth Naui. I am a PhD and I am currently serving as the Provost of the Swiss School of Management. I hope everyone will be attending this entrepreneurship bootcamp in July in Thailand, because I might be there. It's not final yet, but I might be there. And of course, I would really want to see everyone that I am going to interact today. So it's a matter of, it's also a promotion for everyone. You are in Asia already. So Thailand is probably 2 hours, 3 hours away from where you are. So it's good that we have this mediated introduction, electronic introduction, and then hopefully I will see you face to face in real time and in person in Thailand in July for the entrepreneurship bootcamp. Okay, so when we talk about culture and cultural communication or cultural competence, culture is basically the very fabric of every nation and in every individual and in every enterprise or businesses institution. Why is it important today to understand better how how to develop cultural competence? Because our workplace is getting bigger and bigger, and it's getting more diversified in terms of the people working in the organization. Your enterprise or your business might be in Asia, but you have an employee who is coming from Italy, an employee who's coming from the Scandinavian countries, an employee who is from France. So given that scenario, there are a lot of cultural nuances that we have to be sensitive about. This is what I learned from all my travels and being an Asian woman starting a business in Barcelona who did her PhD in the south of France. I mean, Spain, Barcelona, and Nice, where I am from, are actually touching each other. They are borders. But when you look at the cultural differences of these two countries, who's literally touching each other, the difference is immense. There's a lot of differences in culture. So I have to learn how to navigate these cultural nuances. And most of the time when I was discovering it on my own, most of the time I fail. I did some mistakes. And those mistakes I want to share with you so that you will not commit the same mistake, just like how I did it. Because sometimes the price of the mistake is really, it's the weight is very heavy if you don't know how to navigate this terrain. For example, as an Asian woman in the south of France, you know how the French are greeting each other? They call it bisou. They do the kissing. They do the kissing, men to men, women to women, women to men. It's a natural greeting. So if you attend a party, for example, where there's 5 people, you are obliged to kiss everyone. And it's really from the left to the right, and then the other person from the left to the right. So you have, before the party even started, you already have 10 kisses from 5 people. So why I feel very uncomfortable in the beginning, because I am the kind of person that I value my personal space, like away, away, away. But I am navigating, I am operating in this environment where it is common. Okay. In the US, where I lived for a while, it's very common that when you walk on the street and you saw a neighbor or somebody that you don't even know, it's very common for them to say, "Hi, how are you? Are you feeling good today?" It's very common. And for us Asian, it would be like, "I don't even know you. How come you're asking me how I am?" I mean, there is one answer to that, and the answer is always, "I'm fine." I'm not going to tell you that I am worried about this and I am worried about that. But the question is, fine. But for them, it is not really asking you how you are, but the meaning of how are you is very similar to hi. Don't take it so seriously, because it's just a greeting. It's just the way they are. In in Europe, for example, the French are known to be, they really have their own culture, and they are labeled sometimes to be a little snob. They're a little snobbish, because it is part of their culture that once upon a time in the history of the world, they were the greatest civilization. And every country in Europe has a claim to that. The Spanish, the British people, the British people are called the stiff upper lip. They are always looking down on other people. So this kind of cultural nuances we have to be familiar with. I am not saying you have to accept it. You have to be familiar so that you know how to react. You cannot control the expression of other people, but you have to control your own thoughts and your own words and your own actions, because that's in the real life, that's the only thing that you can control. So this picture that you can see on your screen is just how other people are saying how are you. Yeah, like the Italian, ciao bella, that's how they say it, ciao bella. And then in French they will say bonjour, and then in Spanish they will say buenos dias, qué tal, qué pasa, something. I speak French and I speak Spanish, and of course I speak English, and then I speak our native language in the Philippines. So I am very familiar with how, at least the greetings, I admire the Italians, because the way they speak, it always has a pattern, like a sing-song pattern. So for the French, it's flat, bonjour. But for the Italians, they will tell you, if you're a woman, they will greet you like buongiorno bella. So can you imagine how good it, for me, how good it felt, the sensation when every time you are greeted by someone, I feel like they are singing a song to me. So these different types of the way people talk and the way people greet you actually affects, your mood and everything else. Okay, so Going back
Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Liz, but there is a notification popping up in the screen, which shows that this presentation may look different. Can there be something done with that? Read screen. There is a notification regarding the funds. I guess
you cannot see it as it is right now. There, you cannot see good.
no, there's a notification box in the middle.
I don't have it from my end.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have it from my end. From my end, it's very clear.
Okay, I'm not sure what has happened. Can you close the screen and share it again? Maybe it might work.
Oh, sure. I'll do that. Don't worry. Okay, and then we do.
Yes, now it should work.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Yes, it's good. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Sorry for interrupting you.
So I was telling you earlier that there are different types of, in the different terms used in cultural communication or cultural competencies or cultural studies. You have intercultural, multicultural, and cross-cultural, and of course, the transcultural. I will not dwell so much on this because you can do your own research about this. I will discuss it to you very briefly because, to tell you honestly, I want to spend more of our time interacting, not on the lecture type. I want to hear from your experience so that I can more practically answer your question. But of course, I represent an academic institution. It always has to be, important words has to be, and important concepts has to be discussed. Okay, so when we say intercultural, it refers to communities in which there is a deep understanding and respect for all culture. So deep understanding and respect. What is lacking in interculturality is that you respect, but there is no merger. I will just say that you are from Pakistan, you are from India, I understand you, but I don't want to interfere. I am from Spain. This is how we do things. I don't want you to interfere with me, but I respect you. So that's intercultural. Multicultural contains several cultural and ethnic groups, and people live alongside one another, but each cultural group does not necessarily have enough engaging interaction with each other. So intercultural is that you live your life, I live my life. Multicultural is you live your life, I live my life, but once in a while we celebrate fiesta, for example. Once in a while, you will invite me to your own festivities. For example, you have your own. For example, I think it was Diwali. There is an Indian celebration of Diwali or whatever. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong, if that's not the right word. Then probably will invite your neighbor who's from France, for example. So there's a limited interaction, but not engaging enough to influence one another. Cross-cultural, on the other hand, deals with a comparison of different culture. The reason why it's cross-cultural is because you cross to the other side, you crisscross, you try to understand each other. Remember, intercultural is that you live your life, I live my life. Multicultural is you live your life, I live my life. We do interaction once in a while. Cross-cultural, you analyze each other's culture. So when you are invited, for example, for an event for a French family, for example, Bastille Day in France is the independence. So they have fireworks and everything. So, if you are living in a multicultural environment, your idea would be, they are having a fireworks because they are celebrating their Independence Day or the start of the revolution, the French Revolution, for example. But if you are into the cross-cultural mind frame, you ask a question: what is French Revolution? Why are they celebrating it? So there's a deeper understanding. You want to know more because you want to understand. That's cross-cultural competency. Now, my favorite, what is transcultural? Transcultural meaning bringing together elements of different culture. It involves, it is involving, encompassing, or combining elements of more than one culture. So now, when you say transcultural, it means our French neighbor, they are celebrating their Bastille Day, the start of the French Revolution. To support them in their celebration, why don't we celebrate in our household? In our household, there is no literal connection because I am from the Philippines. My neighbor who is celebrating this Bastille Day is French, but I want to do what they are doing to have my own festivity in support to whatever it is that they are celebrating. So that is transcultural competency. So these actually are phases. You know, you can be intercultural, you can be multicultural, you can be cross-cultural, but at this point, we are in the era of transculturalism. We cannot differentiate which is which. I just found out that in London, the word coconut refers to Indians who are living in London. And I said, why coconut? Because apparently the analogy is that, you know, the coconut is brown on the outside, white on the inside. The coconut meat is white. Because the mindset of the London locals is that you are very brown, but you are very westernized on the inside. The way of life, even the way the food that you are eating they are very westernized. So they are white influenced, but the color of your skin is brown. See, so these are some of the symbolisms or words that are associated with the transcultural knowledge that we know right now. We are probably practicing it. We just don't know. We just didn't know that there is a term for it, which is transculturalism. Okay. Sometimes I don't know what's happening with my presentation. Okay, espera ha. Okay, so this is just Parshu, can you see it even if it's a little small?
I can't see your screen actually.
Yeah, okay. So right now there are so many biracial friendship, multiracial families. I mean, it's common now, you know, in the 1950s, 1960s, segregation in the US, when you say, you know, a black man falling in love with a white woman, you know, sometimes, often, they are not allowed to marry. By the priests don't marry them because of the color of their skin. Right now, you are not allowed to do that. Why? Because it's human rights violation. So right now, it's very common for us to have, you know, interculturality even in our household. If you look at the European Union, the temporary employees, this is just, you know, an example to connect it to the business side of, to connect culture and business. So if you can see, for women, 20.6% are non-EU born persons. Those women who are working in the temporary employment. So this goes to show that if 20.6 workers who are in the temporary employment in EU are coming from non-EU countries, that's a very significant number in terms of how many are they in. Put that into numbers. So probably if a small scale company has 5 employees, one of them is coming from outside of EU. Coming from outside of EU, meaning Asian, Latin American, from the US, from Mexico, from anywhere. And how can you blend or drive?
Dr. Liz, we cannot see.
Come again?
Not even. We cannot see your screen. We cannot see the presentation.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. I'll do that again. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Mm-hmm. What about now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. The data on the temporary employment in EU, this is for women who are in the temporary employment, 20% are coming from a non-EU state. And for men, it's 20.01. So it's almost the same. So what I'm saying is, in the European Union, those who are employed in the temporary sector between men and women, 1 out of 5 are actually coming from non-EU member state or non-European country. So if you have 5 employees in your company and everyone is from EU, for example, Spain, Czech Republic, France, and the other one is coming from Germany. And then you have one coming from Pakistan. So can you imagine? You have to be very conscious of what is culturally acceptable for our employee from Pakistan, so that he or she will feel part of the company, that he or she will feel comfortable working for us or working with us. See? And how are we going to make sure that he is on board of what we're trying to achieve as a company? So these numbers actually are very significant in the way and how we discuss culture at the moment. Okay, so now this is a campaign of H&M a very long time ago, if I'm not mistaken, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm sure you've heard of this. This is campaign by H&M that gathers a lot of international attention when it comes to racial question and racial conflict, So for me, it's very innocent. This is just a publicidad, how do you say it? A publicity for a hoodie for boys. For the black boy, it says, coolest monkey in the jungle. And for the white little boy, it says, survival expert. See? So this is very innocent. And then, of course, this came out. This is inappropriate, offensive, and racist. Why is the white kid a jungle survivor and the black kid is the coolest monkey in the jungle? How do you think this is okay? Remove this and the clothing piece. This is completely distasteful. See? So I will ask you later on in the question and answer portion, what do you think of all this? Because of course, this was resolved backdoor. We don't know what happened. There's so many speculation that the mother of the black kid was actually, given some money to settle so that the mother will not sue. However, before the pictorial, the mother knows what the kid is going to wear, because definitely the kid is a minor. So everything that, they will ask permission from the guardian, specifically the mother. Is this all right with you? Is this, do you approve this? So this is some of the best examples of how do you commit mistake if you are not culturally sensitive. This actually backlash to H&M. It's a campaign, but they lose money rather than earn profit from it. Another thing is this called cultural appropriation. Okay, so here you can see the Victoria's Secret fashion model and then Katy Perry in a geisha costume. What's wrong with a Victoria's Secret model is that the headdress that the model is wearing is actually a war headdress used by American Indians during the time of war. And then for them, seeing it used in the runway as an accessory makes them mad, because for them, it is not an accessory, it is a representation of culture which needs to be respected and all. Okay, Katy Perry appeared in one of these, I don't know, I can't remember, Grammys or whatever, singing a song in a geisha costume. So it highlights the fact that geisha is not actually, is not just an entertainer. Because if you look at the history of geisha, geishas are political weapon. They have a role to play, not only in society, but in politics. So by diminishing the very idea of geisha, turning them into a very simple entertainer is actually very offensive for the Japanese. So that's what we call cultural appropriation. So now, how do we understand culture? It's very difficult to navigate all this. What's going on? How will I understand this? What do I need to say? How would I react? So there are so many academic tools that you can use. The first, I only selected two because, as you can see, there's already a lot of concepts here. So I am a fan of the Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory. Okay, there's only 6 different factors here. You have high and low, power distance, collectiveness versus individualism, uncertainty avoidance index, femininity versus masculinity, short-term versus long-term orientation, and restraint and indulgence. Okay, I will only discuss 2 concepts because if I discuss everything, it's actually one course already. So let's focus on power distance. Power distance and collectiveness and individualism. Let's focus on that for at least for today's session. We are all Asians. You know that the power distance in Asian countries are very high. Why? What are the most common manifestations of very high power distance? First, we like to be called by our title. Dr. Samir, Attorney Rosal, for example. We always have that initials before and after our names because it distinguishes my power over you. See, that's power distance. That's one. All the labels that we have on our, I remember one time there is one gentleman who emailed me. It's in another Asian country. I will not tell where, but all the initials after the name, MBA, DBA, PhD, and everything else. All the initials are even twice the length of his own name. And I was like, this is a great example of power distance. You really wanted to establish that I am up here because of all the initials after my name, and you are here because you only have one initial after your name. So that's power distance. Another example is that we believe in hierarchy. You cannot go to the boss without passing through the secretary, the undersecretary, before you reach the decision maker. We value that hierarchy. Okay. In the US, for example, where power distance is very low, first, even if you are the president of the company, you are Joe, you're John. They don't call you Sir John, Boss John, Manager John. They don't do that. You're simply John. See, that's power distance. So, another thing is that our look at how our offices are laid out. The layout of our offices. We always have a door because the employee, if you are the manager, the employee needs to knock because they have to get permission before they can enter. In highly individualized or with low power distance culture, they don't have the door. You can enter anything you want, anytime you want, and you will just say, "Hey, John, I have a problem with our proposal for this company. You think we can make it lower?" And John will make a decision. Listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to Edna, and I will ask what is the best way we can offer so that the client will be happy. They can make the transaction in 5 minutes without so many mention of so much consideration on hierarchy, on we have to do this, we have to do that. They can make decisions very easy. So that's power distance. The second is collectivism and individualism. My partner is French. Okay, so what I love about the French people is that they live a luxurious life, but it's normal for them because they live within their means. If they can afford luxury, they will buy luxury. If they cannot, they don't care. You know, their affirmation of who they are or how good they are is not coming from the outside, it's coming from within, which is totally different for Asians. The affirmation of how good we are, how beautiful we are, how rich we are always coming from other people. That's why we like to have, you know, that for women, for example, we like to have the Louis Vuitton, we want the Hermes, because first, it develops power distance. Second, in our mindset, we feel that we belong. We are approved. Our status in society is approved by the community because it is dependent on what luxury you can show them. So that's power distance and collectivism and individualism. Collectivism, for example, also is that when you accomplish something, you know, you share it with a group. You know, it's a group effort and everything. For highly individualized countries like the West, they will say, "Ah, congratulations, you did it." Of course, I did it, without even recognizing that it's actually a group effort. It's a team effort. So that's Hofstede cultural dimensions theory, and this actually I taught in this theory in negotiation and leadership when I teach negotiation and leadership. Okay, another one which is highly complex is the Lewis model, Richard Lewis. Actually, I met the author of this model. He is already 96 years old, you know, a little weak physically, but the mind is really is still very sharp. The Lewis model talks about us. Okay, wait. The multi-active, the linear active, and the reactive. Okay, so again, I will discuss this, not, just some highlights. Okay, so the linear active, see, you can see countries there. So the linear active are Germany, Switzerland, and Luxembourg. Blue is the color. What does it mean? They are linear active people are cool, factual, and they are decisive planners. So how is this applicable in the workplace? If you hire a German, a Swedish, and a a guy from Luxembourg, they are after excellent result. They are after excellent result. They will get it no matter what. They will deliver excellent result no matter what. That's why during the conference of the author of this model, Mr. Richard Lewis, he said, if you want to build nuclear weapon, you get people where? From the linear active countries. Why? Because they are very precise. Okay, so let's go to the reactive. The reactive countries, they are very Asians. It's definitely us. Why? Because we don't want to rock the boat. Whatever is the norm is the norm. We don't want to change things. We've been doing this for centuries. We don't want to rock the boat. So that is the reactive. Vietnam and Japan and China are in this category. Okay, so what I am saying, why I'm presenting to you these two model is because if you want to understand culture, these are actually the two models that is good to start with. Okay, because with the Lewis model, you have the country. And then when you understand which country you want to study, you go to Hofstede because the Hofstede is good. So I'm telling you, it's good to have these models to look at so that at least you will have a starting point in studying. Okay. Am I still good, Parshu? Okay, perfect. I don't like it. My computer is stuck at the moment. Okay. So benefits of having transcultural competencies. Okay, so here you can see, in some Asian countries, in Thailand, for example, in other Buddhist countries, remember, we remove our shoes before entering the house. It's also for religious purposes and also for hygiene. So at least I know that when I go to Thailand, this is something that I have to do. For Buddhists also, for the Filipinos, it's very common for us to touch a person in the head, like how are you? This part. If you are not allowed to do that, if you're a Buddhist, because that's the highest chakra. So you are not supposed to touch it. In other Asian countries, they eat with their hands. Of course, when the European sees that, they would be like, what are you doing? I don't think I can do that. But, I always tell them, in the Philippines, I used to eat with my hands, but you don't have to be ethnocentric. Ethnocentric meaning you gauge everything based on your own personal cultural understanding. You have to understand there is no dominant culture in the world. You cannot say, this is how we do things in India, this is how we do things in France. You cannot say that. If you are in India, the dominant culture in India is their culture. If you are in France, the dominant culture is in France. So you have to do how others are doing it in their own country without judgment. Reserve the judgment. We are not here to judge people. We are here to understand them. Okay, so one of the biggest joke here in Europe is that during the pandemic, 2 meters apart, you are not allowed to be very close. And those who are, in Sweden, in Switzerland, in Sweden, the Scandinavian countries, they say 2 meters. You know that their regular everyday distance is between 3 meters to 5 meters. So they said the European Union's advice is to be 2 meters apart. So that means instead of moving further, we're actually moving closer, because their distance is not 2 meters. Their normal distance is between 3 to 5 meters apart. And then I have a picture here of Miley Cyrus. This is very common for the Americans. They walk around with Starbucks cup. It's part of who they are. It's part of their culture. Never do that in Italy. Oh, the Italians will laugh at you. The Italians will laugh at you because for them, coffee is sacred. You don't add so many things on it. Frappuccino with a dash of chamomile and a dash of whatever. Oh my God, that will never happen to the Italians. Italians, like Brazilians and Colombians, coffee is very sacred to them. Just like rice is very sacred to us. See? So these are just, some of the cultural competencies, benefit of cultural competencies. Okay. Moving forward. Sorry, Parshu, I don't know what's going on with my presentation. There you go. Okay. So another benefit of being culturally competent is that you gain respect. When they see that, there is one phrase that I find very respectful among French people. When they don't understand what I am doing. For example, how Asians will like to eat soup all the time. And here in Europe, soup is only served during winter. But for us, because I am comfortable with my own food, it doesn't matter if the sun is up or it's, the sun is shining very bright. If I want soup, I will drink soup. I will prepare soup. Soup-based dish, pho, for example, or whatever it is, or tom yum, for example. So these are the things that I like. So my French friends would say, what are you eating? This is a soup-based dish from the Philippines. And they will say, yeah, but it's summertime. And I said, yeah, but we eat this all the time. And instead of judging me and making me feel uncomfortable, and they will just say, well, bon appetit, like eat away, bon appetit. That's interesting. See, if you don't understand something, I think that's a safe phrase. That's interesting. When you taste something that you don't like, instead of saying, yuck, I really don't like it. What is that? What did you put there? There's a lot of ginger or whatever. When you taste it and you don't like it, and of course the person who served you will ask, so how did you find it? The best and safest answer is, it's interesting. Because if a French person say that to me, I know exactly that they don't like it, but it doesn't sound bad. They just say it's interesting. Okay, so you gain respect because you don't act violently for something that you don't understand. You also interact with confidence because you know that, okay, so I am going to this business meeting. I am going to meet someone who is from the Netherlands, for example. People from the Netherlands, they are straight talker. And Asians are very sensitive. We take things always personally. When you talk to someone from the Netherlands, they are a straight talker. They don't sugarcoat. If you give them a proposal and they think that it's, excuse me for my word, if they think it's bullshit, they will tell you it's bullshit. And you have to be okay with that. Because when I hear things like that, I I don't dwell so much on what was said, but I dwell more on who is the person who said it. Because if the person who said it is from the Asian continent, I would be like, I think that's a little personal. But if I know who said it, somebody from the Netherlands, that doesn't matter. It doesn't have weight because that's how they communicate, and that's how they express themselves. So once you know cultural differences, you interact with confidence. You develop accommodating attitude towards cultural differences. Accommodating attitude. I am not saying positive attitude because there are so many things that other cultures are doing that is not sitting well with us. We cannot accept it for whatever reason. But at least I can accommodate and I can recognize that it is different. And my advice always is this, not because it's different, it means wrong. It only means it's different from you. So you develop that accommodating attitude. And then you become a Renaissance man or woman. A Renaissance man or woman is, a person of today. I mean, what are the competencies of the person of today, especially if you are doing higher studies, if you are doing business, if you want to be an entrepreneur? You have to know what's going on. And cultural competency is one of the basic skill requirement for international businesses. You become more social and likable, when you don't make that facial reaction, like you see someone eating with their hands and then you will say, ew, what is that? Next time, no one will invite you. No one will invite you, and they will talk behind your back like, I know that this is not for you, but at least hold your horses. You don't actually say, and you don't express the first thing that comes to mind. Okay, so you become more sociable and likable, and then you check and reserve your judgment. When you realize that, oh, this is not something for me, but there are so many things that's on my head, but I don't want to say it because it will not be received well. So I better keep it to myself, and probably in the right moment when we are comfortable with each other and they actually ask me what is my take on this scenario of eating with hands, then probably I can joke about it. I can do this, but for the meantime, I don't have to say everything that comes to mind. You decreases the barrier that slows progress. Sometimes and we have to be totally honest about this, when there is someone in your group who you don't like, even if his or her ideas are good, we sometimes tend not to support just because it's not the idea, just because it's the person. And we have to be, it happens, when I was younger, I was very much like that because I didn't know any better. So now you understand that when you are working as a team, when you are working as a group, the objective of the group is more important than the individual personal objective. It doesn't matter who the idea is coming from, as long as the idea will help the group, it eventually will help the company. It doesn't matter who it came from. You just have to support it. It also promotes inclusion. Sometimes you have to make an effort to make someone who is like an outsider to be part of your immediate environment. Sometimes, exactly that you are four individual from different European Union countries, and then there is one Pakistani. You have to make an effort to make him feel that he is extra welcome, because his being a Pakistani is already a barrier. So what do? If you're a culturally competent person and colleague, at least you can tell the person, hey, we are going out for a drink. Do you want to, is it permitted in your belief to have this, to have that? So, and also you have to ask, um, I am I am going to have a party at my house. Parshu, are you vegetarian? Do I have to prepare something for you? You have to be sensitive about that, because a lot of religion from India, Pakistan, they really are vegan or vegetarian, or they only eat halal, something like that. So you have to be very accommodating of the needs and sensitivities of your group members. And of course, it improves attentiveness and sensitivity. Okay, attentiveness and sensitivity, meaning, yeah, there are certain words that you are not, try not to say it in the presence of women, for example, or in the presence of men, for example. And this is really something that I trained myself really hard on, because I am like Adele. Curse words comes out of my mouth like it's part of an everyday conversation, but I have to be very attentive and sensitive to what I'm saying, especially if I am in the academic setup. Not everyone is appreciative of that. um, I these things are, you have to be aware of. Okay, so 5 elements of cultural competence. You have to acknowledge that culture is different from one another. Okay, you have to acknowledge that. Again, difference is not tantamount to wrong, it's just different. You also have to understand your own culture. Sometimes, we have the tendency to criticize others. They are doing this, they are doing that. I mean, go back to your own culture, because we are also doing things that is bizarre for them. For example, how we eat dried fish in the Philippines. For example, we eat dried fish, so every time I cook it, it's really smells very bad in the house. And then my French partner is complaining, and then I would hit him back with, hey, when you open the blue cheese, I am not complaining, it's the same smell. So, it's a banter like that. So you understand your own culture to be able to at least understand also other culture. You engage in self-assessment, which is very good. I mean, after, for example, a meeting or after a conference, and then you will say, yeah, but in the dinner table, I said something, and then suddenly this woman from India suddenly stopped talking. Did I say something that might be offensive? So it's good to have self-assessment sometimes, because we are not always right. So it's good always to check. You acquire cultural knowledge and skills, and you view behavior with a cultural context. This is what I was telling you. If somebody tells me that my work is bullshit, I will not concentrate on the word. I will concentrate on who said it, because probably those words are very common, and I take it like a stride. And then if I am not comfortable with it, I will say, hey, Jovan, I'm sorry, but when you said that my work is bullshit, I think you have to think of another term, because I don't really appreciate the bullshit. You know what I mean? And then they will realize that, oh my God, yeah, because first you are coming from a different culture, so I apologize. So there, it's always a dance. You know, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward with the people that you are working with. So with that, I am open now for question and answer. I hope I have shared some valuable information with you. We are now open for question and answer.